You said the people in the EU Parliament don't know anything about Bitcoin. But how do we stay in touch? I have the feeling they don't care what we think, to be honest.
You have to be able to talk in their own language. When I was negotiating with the European Commission and the European Council, I learned the language as well.
You have a background in risk management, right? How risky is it to have your wealth stored in fiat money on your bank account?
I think they are very much afraid about money laundering and terrorist financing. It's very important that the industry itself...
Is that not an excuse also? Are they really afraid of money laundering? Or is it an excuse to tighten the rules and gain more control?
Yes, you can imagine a situation where all the money is stored into Bitcoin. This is, I think, what's in the back of their mind, you know, that all the money is stored in Bitcoin and it's out of their sight and out of their control. People who are working there are somewhat in a crisis because of Trump. Mm. It's about time that the European Commission understands that this rules and regulation stuff, you don't have to throw it away all together all at once, but we have to be very critical and we have to erase the rules and regulations that are not helping.
So today we're talking to Dorien Rookmaker. She used to be in charge of risk management in banking. Then she was a member of the European Parliament, and now she's leading the party Meer Directe Democratie, Meer Direct Democracy. You contributed to the MiCA regulation as well, right?
Yes, that's correct. As a member of the... hi, Daniel. Thanks for inviting me. Let's start. Yeah. You know, I'm also very task-orientated, you know. If somebody asks me a question, I go right into it. But... Yeah. But I'm really honored and glad and happy that you invited me to talk about crypto and the future of crypto. But yes, I took part in the MiCA regulation, tried to make it as less stringent as possible. Because in my opinion, it's very important that innovation can flourish. And if you try to regulate everything from the start and you do this in a very stringent way, I think you overregulate per definition, and more unfortunate, you curb innovation. And I try to explain to the Commission and also to my colleagues in the Econ Committee that because MiCA was, of course, about customer protection, right? And I think the basic problem with the European Union right now is that they are overemphasizing safety, mm-hmm. and they are deputizing freedom.
But is safety really their concern, or is it actually control that they are looking for?
Yes, well, in their opinion, safety and control are closely linked. Mm-hmm. And so if they don't have full control, they don't feel safe. I entered the discussion with a French liberal politician, a liberal member of the Econ Committee. And I said to her, you know, what is the problem with cryptocurrency? There is no problem, you know. And she said, well, there is. And I said, well, explain to me, what is your concern? What is your problem? And then she said, you know, the problem is there are no rules and regulations. Mm-hmm. Even if there is no problem, if there are no rules and regulations, in some minds in the European Union, that is a problem in itself. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, today is a very special day. We reached 100K last night. So I don't think Bitcoin is going away. What do you think about that development, actually?
Well, you know, it's exciting, especially if you have invested in Bitcoin, of course. And I believe Trump said that Bitcoin isn't going away anymore. You know, it's here to stay. And the combination of these two makes me think that he probably is right. But how it's going to develop is depending, of course, on what's going on. You know, if there is a huge buying freeze, and people are buying Bitcoin by the thousands and millions, then this could unfortunately also disrupt the financial markets. And I'm not so sure that this is of interest of Bitcoin as an industry.
Yeah, probably better if it goes gradually instead of abruptly. You have background in risk management, right? How risky is it to have your wealth stored in fiat money on your bank account?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, of course, you know, with money is risk. Yeah, money is risk. And well, I always teach people when I teach risk management that every decision you make, there's always a risk. You know, this is why you make decisions. Everything is clear. If there is no uncertainty, then you don't have to make a decision, right? Yeah. Right. So decisions are a decision-making process is about managing uncertainty. But you can look at it both ways. You know, uncertainty means opportunity as well as risk. So you have to take care and see what you are able to bear. This is, I think, the golden rule. So take care and take a good look at what you're able to bear. So I wouldn't put all my money on Bitcoin, but I wouldn't put all my money on whatever currency. Because, of course, we have different developments right now. We have also the BRIC countries trying to think about maybe their own currency. Their own reserve currency. So there is a battle going on in the financial world. And of course, there always have been battles in the financial world. So this is not something we should be concerned about. We should accept it, I think, and be aware of the risks that are around us.
Yeah. At Bitcoin Amsterdam, you said the people in the EU Parliament don't know anything about Bitcoin, and it would be very important that we stay in touch with them if we don't want bad regulation. But how do we stay in touch? I have the feeling they don't care what we think, to be honest.
Well, you know, if you want them to stay in touch, you have to be able to talk in their own language, I think. I think you have to find a way, a common ground. And when I entered politics, by the way, it was 1 year before I entered the European Parliament. I was a senator then. And I learned the language. I learned to speak the language. And when I was negotiating with the European Commission and the European Council, I learned the language as well. So this means, I think, if crypto, the industry wants to have a foothold on the ground in Brussels, it has to learn the language, and it has to listen very carefully about what the concerns are and how the different groups think and reason. And if they know how they think and reason, they can take away their concerns without having to resort to more rules and more regulations.
Yeah.
Maybe it sounds a little bit abstract, but for instance, if they are afraid of customer violations, or I think they are very much afraid about money laundering and terrorist financing, it's very important that the industry itself...
Is that not an excuse also? Are they really afraid of money laundering? Or is it an excuse to tighten the rules and gain more control?
Yes, but I think they are really afraid of money laundering because, you know, you can imagine a situation where all the money is stored into Bitcoin. We're not there yet. We're not even close. But this is, I think, what's in the back of their mind, that all the money is stored in Bitcoin and it's out of their sight and out of their control. And they cannot raise taxes anymore or even use them because there aren't any, because we have our Bitcoin now and we have other cryptocurrencies. If the system goes out of their sight, they lose control. Because every government can only control and have power as long as they have money. We all know, right?
Absolutely. That's why we talk about separation of money and state, or more precisely, money printing and state. Yeah.
And I think for this exactly this point, this is why, of course, crypto was made. So it was as a weapon against inflation and the printing of money by central governments. So the robbing of the people. You can also put it bluntly this way. You have to, I think you have to, as a sector, it's important to have a two-way strategy. This means that you take away the concerns of the politicians for as much as you can by regulating yourself and showing them that you already took care of some of the big risks for them. This is one thing. And on the other hand, I think cryptocurrencies and the crypto industry have a lot to gain by talking about all the positive sides of crypto. Because this is, of course, very important that the general public understands that crypto is not a threat and is not a risk, it's more an opportunity than a risk. It's very important what the general public thinks, because politicians don't listen to the general public all the time, but a lot of times they do.
Yeah. We Bitcoiners still make a distinction between crypto and Bitcoin, because I think Bitcoin alone is the only cryptocurrency that's actually decentralized, and all the others have a foundation or are a company, have a known head of the foundation or company. So there is still an angle where governments could influence the regulation of those cryptocurrencies, which is not possible with Bitcoin anymore, in my view. So yeah, you worked on MiCA and it's now law. Do you consider it a success, or are there aspects you wish you could have been handled differently?
Well, I think it's still too stringent. I try to loosen the thresholds a little bit more, but I failed. So it became a little bit less worse than I thought at first glance, but I think it could have been better. On the other hand, it's still work in progress. A lot of things are not settled by the law in itself. It has a lot of room for technical stuff. And this technical stuff is not presented to the European Parliament. So it's up to everyone who knows a little bit about the technical stuff to be really aware of everything that is published in ESMA site, EBA site, and EMLA site, to be aware of what's going on in the nitty-gritty detail. Because this could be really ugly,
Okay. So what could be ugly precisely? What should be improved, especially with regards to, let's say, privacy and not stifling the crypto economy in Europe?
Well, it's not so much about what's in the text, but it's how it's interpreted and how it's used by the supervisory bodies. So
there's freedom of interpretation there.
Yeah, there is. There is. And there probably is, because, I think this is something that banks struggle with too, But in every member state, you have different supervisors, right? So, yeah, this could cause problems for MiCA as well. So I think it's very important to stay awake, and see what's going on. And if a supervisor tells you to not do something or to improve something, stay critical. Because supervisors, just like politicians in the European Union, are not the ones who know a lot about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. They are still on an educational level. They're trying to develop their knowledge about the whole thing. So you have to educate them and be very patient. I think this is very important, because if they do not understand it, then their uncertainty level goes up. Then they think there is a lot of risk, and then they will try to interpret the rules and regulations as narrow as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at Bitcoin Amsterdam, I made a survey where I asked people there what they think is the next country to adopt Bitcoin as legal tender. And I'm quite sure it's not going to be a European country. So don't you think there's a big risk that Europe is being left behind here? Or do you think they could reconsider their attitude also because of what happened with Trump? And even Putin yesterday acknowledged that, Bitcoin isn't going away. And so the whole game theory could play out where nation states start adopting, buying, accumulating Bitcoin now. So
yeah, that's true, but you can see, if you take a step back, you can, investors have, in general, they have a risk profile, right? You have invested with a high risk profile. They are able and willing to take a lot of risk. And you have investors that have a low risk profile. And if you can put this on countries and regions as well, and if you look at the European Union and Europe in general, they have a low risk profile. It's bureaucratic, it's slow, it's risk averse. It's trying to mitigate everything that can go wrong. So yes, if crypto and Bitcoin needs more space, it makes no sense to invest, I think, in Europe. I don't like it, because I love Europe. And I think maybe, and even, you can use the diversification that Europe has in itself. You have different member states. You have Hungary, you have Poland, you have different member states with different risk profiles and risk appetites. So you could use this for pilot projects. You could in theory choose one of your member states and say, focus on this new technology for us, and try to see how you can create a crypto hub for Europe. That would be nice, right? As a pilot project, that would be great. But I don't think that the European Union works this way, because they want to centralize everything. They want to harmonize everything. They want to do it in every member state at the same way. And if you try to consolidate, try to harmonize all these different attitudes and all these different risk appetites, you inevitably come to a risk-averse profile. And this means, I think, that the Bitcoin will probably evolve in South America and in the United States as well.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot. The narrative is also shifting, right? So people now say it's risky not being in Bitcoin, right? And Trump wants to have it as a reserve currency to stabilize the dollar. So the fiat currency can be debased because it can be printed out of thin air, and the hard limit of Bitcoin is maybe also a stabilizer. And by now it's the strongest decentralized computer network in the world. So maybe it's also risky to stay out of Bitcoin.
Yes, I think so. I fully agree with you. It is. But this is something that it has to land in Brussels. People have to understand that this is risky. It's very risky to not take part in the development of cryptocurrencies and bitcoins. So, for instance, I think if I would be able to choose, I would ask maybe a country like Luxembourg, but also the Netherlands or Denmark or even Ireland, small countries with a good infrastructure and a stable supervisory bodies. They could, you could start with a pilot. Mm-hmm. And see how it works. I think a country like France or Germany, Germany is very bureaucratic and it's not their cup of tea, financial services anyway, it's not their cup of tea. And France is, of course, addicted to every rule and regulation in the book. But I think Denmark is very entrepreneurial, although I understand from people I know in the crypto industry that they have some difficulties with their supervisory bodies over there. Mm-hmm. But also Ireland, for instance, it has a well-developed financial industry, and the Netherlands as well. So I think in this aspect, it would be wise even for the European Union and the European Commission to think about the opportunities that we miss if we do not invest in cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the magic is, how do we reach these people? I followed the Bitcoin im Bundestag initiative. Are you aware of that? That was initiated by Joanna Kotar, who's an independent MP in Germany.
No, I'm afraid I missed it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so she is like the only Bitcoiner in the German Bundestag, and she used to be a member of the AfD, but she left that party and is now an independent member of the parliament, and she started the initiative Bitcoin im Bundestag, and she had like experts giving presentations in the parliament about Bitcoin, and she said that it's very difficult to in a party to really bring forward new ideas, because you're bound to what the party narrative is prescribing, and only when she left she could actually start with that kind of topic.
I understand completely.
It's like being a soldier, right? Where you cannot freely think. And I think that's maybe also an issue that you are addressing. And
yeah, this is exactly why I started a platform, Meer Directe Democratie, for independent politicians. So if you want to be a politician, or you think you need to be a politician, I think then you can join my platform, and then you can get elected at any level in our society in the Netherlands, but also on a European level. If you get enough votes, you can. And the platform will never tell you what to think or vote or say. And I think this is very important, because indeed what you're telling is true. The conventional political parties have a hierarchy structure, right? So, and the people on top are not so into change and new things, and they have a lot to lose, of course. If they gamble, if they tell the audience like crypto has a future, and they are wrong, they lose a lot. So you need very courageous people in conventional parties to embrace change, and we can see that Trump is a politician like that, and probably Meloni as well. You need politicians with courage. In this aspect, maybe the Italian angle is not such a bad way to try to introduce yourself. And I know that Milan has a lot of ambition and aspiration to become sort of financial center for Europe. So you asked me, where do we start? How it's so difficult to get an entrance. But I think you have to think about where are the best opportunities. And I think maybe in Italy, in Milan as well, it could be, I don't know. It could be, but you have to find out. And of course, there's a lot of things going on. And also with political parties, you see them change overnight, right? Even in Germany, I understand why the lady of the AfD left, but you can see that even, for instance, in the Netherlands as well, but in Germany as well, if it's economically beneficial to change, then they will. So it's very important that you introduce a positive business case. I saw some very interesting stuff about, for instance, solar and wind energy, wind power, turned into Bitcoin mining if there was no demand for energy at the time. So, you have to be creative, I think, and to think about all the opportunities that are there. And then there will be a change. But it is difficult, and you need to be very, you need to knock on a lot of doors, try to see which one you can open more easily, and look for the people with power. This is very important.
Yeah. I mean, how do you get through? I mean, if the party members follow what the party leaders say, then I wonder, where do the party leaders derive their political ideas and strategies from? Are they the ones that think free and independently, or by what are their ideas shaped, actually?
Well, their ideas are shaped by lobbyists. And lobbyists have, of course, they have a bad name, like there's some crooked thing going on. But you have to understand that if you do not lobby, lobbyists are people. Excuse me. Lobbyists are training and informing politicians. So you have to be there. You have to do this. You have to organize it.
Yeah, we have a Bitcoin Bundesverband who was actually founded in the parliament. So we have a Bitcoin lobby group now in German parliament. So let's see how they do. But so you have to lobby. That's the answer. So you have built a lobby group that actually...
You have to lobby. You have to organize events in the parliament. This is what you do in the Bundestag, which is good. But I think you should also try to organize meetings with supervisory boards and with the ECB. The ECB is always looking for information. Now,
but are they really interested in change, or are they just going to fight it whatever, even if it's very logical? Because it kind of makes them a little bit unnecessary.
Well, no, I think if it's in their interest, they are able to change. Yeah? So if the ECB is now trying to make a European currency, right? A new European currency, the ECBC. And of course, this is sort of a project, and it's also a pilot. So you can see. I think it's very strange that they're trying to do so. It's something that they copied from the Chinese, and I don't think there is so much use for it in Europe, because such currencies are only useful if you have a lot of people who cannot go to banks or anything. That they have no. There is no accessibility for financial industries. But anyway, they want to do it. And the only thing I think that they need is digital euro. This is what I'm talking about, the digital euro. The only thing that I could think of why it could have some use is when there is a banking crisis. So you could ask for people in the European Central Bank to talk to as a sector, and say that you're interested in Bitcoin as maybe, or Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies as something that can be used in times of crisis, or the other way around, Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies that can be a cause of a crisis. And I think if you put these two subjects on the agenda, somebody will call you.
Okay.
Yeah.
But isn't it the control they want? Because I mean, our ideas of CBDCs is that it provides total control of all transactions in a centralized way, and you have programmable money where you can put an expiry date on it. You could potentially only allow to buy certain products, make it available for a certain period in certain geographic areas. And we saw it in China, where protesters had their it was back then the COVID passport turned red, and everything stopped. They couldn't go into anything anymore. So the fear is that it will be combined with how do you call it, digital ID and a social credit score, and then that's not really good, is it?
No, this is certainly what I don't want, and I think a lot of Europeans don't want it. And I think we shouldn't be too afraid of these developments. Because,
we should not.
No. Why not? Because it would be very stupid to think so, that you can use a digital euro like this in the European continent. We are not Chinese, you know, and this is something I think people with a fear of digital euro are forgetting, but also people in power are forgetting. You know, we think about like people are people, but this is not. People are not people. You know, of course they are. They are equal in the sense that they are worth all the same. You know, they are equal, but they're not equal. The culture and language in China is so much different from Europe. You know, people in Europe won't accept it. I think, to have these social controls.
But if you phrase it in a way that they don't understand the risks, because they're not really openly saying, yeah, potentially it could be used for, there could be an expiry date, or we could just confiscate your money with a click of a mouse, which they can already do. But I mean, it's not a coincidence that this development is happening all over the world, right? So there is
it's not happening all over the world. You know, I've talked to the American central bank, the CEO of the American central bank, and I asked him when I was in Econ, you know, that how are you? Do you like the digital dollar? Are you developing it? And he said, you know, this is what he said literally. He said, you know, we are not going to do this because we would undermine the position of our franchisers. And their franchisers are commercial banks. Mm-hmm. He said, if we directly service the retail customer with money and trying to be a commercial bank in that sense, because we are now in the business of having a bank account, providing a bank account for everyone, we will be in competition with our commercial banks. It's like, he said literally, it's like McDonald's, you know, the headquarters is selling the hamburgers directly to the customers, and not involved with the franchisers anymore. So this would be, he said, I don't see the point in that. You know, we will create chaos if we do so. So I think knowing the people in the European Central Bank, I think they are thinking about the digital euro not so much as a control mechanism, but much more as a safety net. A safety net when, for instance, like in 2008, commercial banks collapse. You know, you remember these people in Cyprus that they were trying to get money out of the ETMs, but they failed. So they didn't have any money. I think ECB, but they will never say this, because then they say in so many words that you cannot trust a commercial. And of course, if you ECB say there might be a moment where you cannot trust your commercial bank, then you undermine the financial system. So they will never say this. But I think if they have this system in place where they can, from one day to another, give everybody 3,000 euros, this is the maximum amount that they are steering at, then you have a sort of safety net in times of crisis and trouble.
Yeah. But I mean, there is the head of the BIS, Bank of International Settlements, I forgot his name, Augustin Karls, who clearly said that CBDCs provide a mechanism of control that has not been seen with our current monetary system. So there are people that have interest in knowing what we spend our money on. And
I can understand, but this is, of course, somebody from the commercial banks telling you this, right? And
BIS is like the head of the central bank, like Bank of International Settlements.
No. The settlements banks is a cooperation of all the commercial banks in the whole world. So this is they represent commercial banks, but that doesn't matter. But for
I've known it as the central bank of central bank. That's not correct.
No.
Okay.
It's Basel. It's about all the banks coming together, trying to make the financial system better, more effective, more etc. etc. So. But there are a lot of problems to be tackled here, because if you as the CEO of the central bank in America, the Fed, told me.
So that is Jerome Powell, or who's this?
No. I'm very bad at names, but it's not Jerome Powell. Mm-hmm. He stood down quite recently. Mm-hmm. He's quitting right now because of the election of Trump. Yep. But he said to me. He said to me, if you try to give money, if you try to provide people with a current account, you create disruption in the system. And I agree with this, because I was a banker myself, and I know that all these transactions, the payment system, of course, you need a lot to make it profitable, because it takes a lot of infrastructure, it takes a lot of energy, so it's costly. So if you have a lot of transactions going on, it could be profitable. But when I was in banking, and it was a couple of years ago, so I have to admit I don't know the details right now, but I do know that when I was in banking, then the payment systems were not profitable. This is why they outsourced it. And now you have all these different payment systems, right? But these are the systems. This is not, of course, a digital currency. This is purely the system. But the digital currency should be available through the systems, right? So it is very complicated, and I do not think that they will introduce it in the near future. Yeah. It's far too complicated, and I've been there when they talked about it with consumer organization, etc. And they promised so much. They promised privacy. They promised that cash would be available. They promised that it wouldn't be traceable. That it, etc., etc. So all the worries that you told me right now, they said they would take care of it. If they try to take care of that and make it cost effective, well, this will be a project that will go on forever. I don't think there will be a solution anyway. So I'm not that concerned about digital currencies.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, you hear theories that you need a crisis to implement the system. So they're even artificially, those crises are created so you can implement a new system like... Edward Snowden also said during the COVID pandemic that the rules that are implemented now are here to stay while the pandemic will go away at some point. And some, make analogies to the monetary system as well.
This is true, this is true. And this is, of course, on a more abstract level, this is a problem this is why I'm happy that Trump was elected, because he promised us deregulation. Mm-hmm. Because what Europe is doing is regulate more. And with every regulation, your freedom is going away. I think this overregulation is more of a concern than a digital currency, by the way. Yep. This overregulation creates a world and an environment and a society where you are not capable of making your own decisions anymore, because for every move you make, there will be a protocol, or there will be a law or a regulation. Yep. And this is not comfortable, but it's more than that. It's disastrous, because if you cannot use your sense for responsibility and accountability, if you don't have responsibility, if you're not allowed to take on responsibility, then you will not develop it. And then you create a world where everybody says, I would like to help you, but I'm not allowed. Or I would service you, but I'm not allowed. And nobody takes responsibility anymore for anything. They're just pointing at the system. And we see this in banking now. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. You can call your bank and explain something. This is the de-risking problem. You can explain them. You can say, these are my papers. I'm reliable. I'm not financing any terrorists. You know me from when I was born. So what is your problem? And they still say, I'm sorry, but I need this and this document. And I understand your problem, but I'm gonna cut you off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think more responsibility in general would be a good thing. I also think the media plays a big role in there, so people can make more informed, responsible decisions. Currently every 4 years we vote for a party that makes all kinds of promises about all sorts of topics. We all have our own reasons for voting. Many have different reasons for voting for one party, and then they often don't follow through. Instead of just relying on political parties, I think we should be able to vote directly on specific topics that actually concern you personally. What do you think about that? Should we have more referendums on important issues so I can directly vote on something and not every 4 years on I have my reasons to vote for something, and then it's all becoming a diluted thing and then they're not following through?
Yes, I think we need an emergency brake system, right?
An emergency brake system, okay.
Yes, with a referendum, so that if you see something going wrong completely, something going off the cliff, that as a citizen, you will be able to raise this issue, ask for a referendum and say no. I think this is very important, because you can only have democracy with informed and responsible people. Because if everything is overregulated, then you cannot take responsibility for for any of your actions anymore. What are we talking about? What is the democracy then? Are there choices to make? No, there are no choices to make. Because there is a system. The only thing is that if you make the wrong choice, you probably will break a rule, because there are so many rules, and then you have to face consequences, So we will end up in jail altogether. This shouldn't be. This is, of course, nobody wants to go there. This is not the world we want to live in. I think we have to try to get rid of rules and regulations. We have to vote for politicians who say, I'm going to make it transparent what kind of rules and regulations there are, what the difficulties are, and I'm trying to get rid of them, and this should be it. But now, in the world we're living in now, we are still in the legacy of the 19th century, that all these emancipation participatory politicians and parties are trying to spot a problem and say, here's a problem, and we have to regulate it. But now I think we're on a special point in time, and Trump has seen this more clearly than people in Europe, is that now we have regulated everything, and it didn't give us the ideal world that we were supposed to get, and now we have to say, this is all wrong because we're more educated, we are better informed than any time in our history. So if we are higher educated, we are better informed, we should be able to make our own decisions and to act more responsibly, right? Yep. And if you are given more freedom and you can take on more responsibility, if you abuse it, it should be punished severely, probably. I'm not sure that you have to put people in jail, but if people abuse the system and hurt people, I think they are more accountable than, say, 400 years ago. Because we are better informed.
Yeah.
We should know better.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, so as a final question, is there anything you're very optimistic about for the near future? Or do you have any severe concerns about something in the near future?
I am a very optimistic human being. I think that if something goes wrong, eventually we will find out and we will repair it. I don't think people are rational animals. We are not. I think birds, and if you look at nature, you can see that if an animal is doing something, you can explain it because it's rational. It has to do with feeding or getting offspring or whatever. You can see why an animal is acting like he's acting. But for us humans, we are less transparent, so this is of course a problem, but we are not rational and we are failing all the time.
But we believe we are very rational most of the time.
This is our blind spot, we will find out eventually that this is all wrong. We are not, but I'm optimistic as well, especially for Europe, because this strategy that they announced and that they follow through we're creating the rules and the standards for the whole wide world, and then everybody has to follow us and and we can lead. This has backfired. So this is a crisis, and I'm of course also a European politician. So I'm happy that this strategy has backfired, and I think it's time. It's about time that the European Commission understands that this rules and regulation stuff, you don't have to throw it away all together all at once, but we have to be very critical, and we have to erase the rules and regulations that are not helping. And so probably the European Commission, the people who are working there are somewhat in a crisis because of Trump and because of course, everything that's happening around us geopolitically. And of course, also now because of the crisis in France and the crisis in Germany, this doesn't help. But for us, Democrats and people who want to have change, this is an opportunity. So we have to go out and get there, and take this opportunity.
Great. Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks so much for for the very insightful conversation. And thank you.
Thank you for having me.